Often, when someone reveals that they treat their birthday like any other day, the immediate reaction from those around them is concern or veiled judgment. There's a persistent cultural myth that the absence of celebration reflects sadness, loneliness, or even mass depression. However, behavioral psychology offers a fascinating and opposite perspective. For many, this indifference is a marker of enviable mental health and a rarely achieved emotional autonomy. Instead of being a sign of neediness, this choice can represent the pinnacle of an internal locus of identity, where the individual's value doesn't depend on annual rituals or collective validation. Today, let's deconstruct the pillars of this mentality and understand why not needing a party can be your greatest psychological asset. The first fundamental pillar for understanding this phenomenon is the concept of internal locus of identity. Most of us are trained from childhood to seek social proof that we exist, and I love it. Birthday parties function as this great validation tribunal. However, people with a strong inner identity don't need the world to stop to confirm their importance through messages or gifts. They possess such a crystallized self-perception that their birth date neither adds nor detracts from their sense of self. For them, existence is a concrete and self-sufficient fact, making external displays of affection, while welcome, completely unnecessary for maintaining their or emotional balance on that specific day. This emotional independence generates profound authenticity, as these people don't feel the need to perform joy or gratitude to satisfy others' expectations. In large celebrations, there is an invisible pressure for the birthday person to be the center of attention, which demands a considerable amount of social acting. By opting for normality, the individual exercises their freedom not to follow empty social rituals simply out of conformity. They prefer to be seen for who they are every day, rather than being celebrated by a chronological convention. This refusal to participate in the social theater of anniversaries demonstrates a psychological courage to be who one is, without festive masks, prioritizing inner truth over external convention that demands programmed smiles and protocol-driven thank you speeches. Moving on to the perception of time, we observe that these people see life as a continuous flow, not as a succession of rigid blocks of 365 days. While most of society uses birthdays as a checkpoint or arbitrary milestone to evaluate successes and failures, the balanced mind perceives that personal growth happens in daily micro. For this mentality, the day of birth does not have a greater ontological importance than an ordinary Tuesday of work or learning. They understand that evolution is gradual and persistent. Therefore, celebrating an annual leap seems illogical when valuing the constant progress that occurs in the silence of ordinary days, far from the glow of candles or noisy toasts. This view of fluid time drastically reduces the anxiety that many feel as they age. When we don't attach the symbolic weight of a new beginning or a deadline to birthdays, we eliminate the psychological pressure of having to achieve certain goals by that specific date. If you identify with what's being said here, share your story in the comments, or leave a like and subscribe. Bye. Removing the mystique from birthdays, we transform life into a long-term project without artificial interruptions. This allows individuals to focus on what truly matters, the consistency of their actions and the quality of their daily relationships. Instead of getting lost in melancholic reflections on the past or empty promises made simply because the calendar has turned a page, from the perspective of energy and social selectivity, treating a birthday like any other day is a brilliant strategy for emotional preservation. Traditional celebrations require what psychologists call emotional labor, managing guests' expectations, responding to hundreds of messages, and striving to appear grateful for attentions that are sometimes superficial. For many people, this process is exhausting and generates a fatigue that negates any pleasure in the celebration. By choosing silence, they conserve energy, preferring to invest their time in genuine and profound interactions throughout the year. Instead of exhausting themselves in an obligatory ritual that often drains them emotionally and physically, this selectivity is, in fact, a very healthy way to establish clear boundaries. Deciding not to celebrate is not an act of isolation, but an exercise in prioritizing one's own peace of mind. Those who opt for an ordinary day generally prefer quality over quantity. They value those who are present in the daily journey, not those who only show up to fulfill an annual protocol of congratulations. This stance demonstrates a maturity that understands that time is our most scarce and precious resource. Spending it feigning enthusiasm at obligatory social events seems too high a price to pay for those who have already learned to satisfy their emotional needs through authentic connections and moments of meaningful and restorative introspection. Furthermore, there is an emotional intelligence component involved in rejecting the dictatorship of happiness surrounding birthdays. We live in an era where we are pressured to display constant moments of joy on social media, and birthdays have become the main stage for this display. By detaching oneself from this need, the individual regains control over their own narrative. They don't need to prove they're happy or have many friends. They simply live. This psychological tranquility is rare and powerful, as it removes power from the hands of the public and returns it to the owner of life, allowing the day to be lived with the simplicity and truth that each person deems appropriate and necessary. Detachment from these temporal markers also facilitates a more honest connection with one's own aging process. Without the weight of ritual, the passage of years is integrated more naturally into the individual's identity. There is no shock of transition, because transition is perceived as a constant process of erosion and renewal. This acceptance of finitude and constant change, without the need for celebrations that attempt to freeze time, is a sign of a resilient mind. The individual becomes the architect of their own chronology, deciding which moments deserve to be celebrated based on real personal meanings and not on dates that were predetermined by the biological chance of their birth. Therefore, if you are someone who prefers the calm of a normal routine instead of the noise of a party, know that this may be a reflection of a very successful psychic integration. You have learned to validate yourself, to respect your biological rhythm, and not to succumb to the pressures of a culture that demands extroversion at any cost. Treating your birthday like any other day isn't a sign of bitterness, but rather a testament to the fact that your life is rich enough in the other 364 days that you don't need a special event to feel alive. It's the ultimate celebration of autonomy, where the individual becomes the sole judge of their own happiness and fulfillment. It's crucial to understand that mental health doesn't have a single celebratory form. Psychological diversity allows us to find satisfaction in silence, routine, and the absence of the spotlight. When we normalize the desire not to celebrate, we are validating the individual freedom of each person to be the silent protagonists of their own story. May we look at these people not with pity, but with admiration for their ability to find meaning in the continuity of existence without the crutches of collective rituals. After all, the greatest celebration one can have is the inner peace of knowing who one is, regardless of what the calendar says or what society expects us to feel. In this analysis, we saw that the ordinary day is, for many, a refuge of authenticity and a shield against social exhaustion. By embracing this mindset, you free yourself from the shackles of external validation and focus on what is perennial. We hope this reflection has shed new light on human behavior and help to demystify old prejudices about solitude and celebration. Psychology teaches us that well-being is subjective and that the true celebration of life occurs in each conscious breath, in each learning experience, and in each moment of truth we live with ourselves, far from any pressure to be something we are not or to feel something that is not genuine. That way, I'll know you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Leave your ideas in the comments about what we can cover on the channel.